Becky Schaefer, and this is Parents Corner on AACPS TV. Each month we talk about a topic of interest to parents like us. This month we're focusing on Common Core math. According to Wikipedia, the Common Core state standards detail what kindergarten through 12th grade students should know in English language arts and math at the end of each grade. The initiative was established to create consistent educational standards across the states and ensure that students graduate from high school prepared to enter a 2 or 4 year college or the workforce. AACPS adopted Common Core into classrooms in 2010. So it sounds good, but Common Core has come with a host of questions from parents, mainly because it's a very different way of learning than we were taught. Common Core students are tasked with solving problems by understanding concepts, not just memorization of numbers. So what does Common Core really mean, and how can parents navigate through it? Well, we spoke with the AACPS math team to discuss. Hi, thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about your role with AACPS?
Yeah, so as the content coordinators, we're responsible for ensuring that the curriculum and the assessments that are given to teachers as part of their instruction align with national and state standards. We work with the rest of the division to form a comprehensive mission and vision for the county and work with all of our classroom teachers to improve instruction.
Great. And we're here to talk about Common Core math. What exactly is Common Core?
So Common Core are a set of national standards that the state of Maryland has adopted, and the state of Maryland calls those the Maryland College and Career Ready Standards, and those standards are developed to create a coherent trajectory of learning for students pre-K through 12th grade.
Pre-K through 12th grade, great. And what would you say are the benefits of Common Core?
Well, there are several benefits. First of all, when they were adopted, they were looked at in terms of 3 shifts: focus, coherence, and rigor. And focus was taking the skills that are needed for mathematics and putting them into certain grade levels so that there could be a more in-depth look at those particular skills in a grade level. Coherence means that through the grade levels there is a trajectory of learning, but in each grade level students are expected to master those skills to continue that coherence. And finally there was rigor. And the idea of rigor is not to go faster or go to the next grade level, but was actually to go deeper in the mathematics per that grade and to understand it more conceptually. In addition to the actual skills or the content part of the math, we have the standards of mathematical practice. And those are the habits of mind that students develop as they're doing the math, such as being able to reason about mathematics and be able to use models when they're doing the mathematics, understanding perseverance and what it takes for productive struggle to get through some of the problems that they're doing. So the standards for mathematical practice are actually some of the behaviors that students would exhibit going along with the skills that they are learning.
Great. And we were joking around earlier about some of the new terms and things because it's a very different way of learning than we grew up learning. For example, regrouping, I had said. I have a really difficult time with regrouping. Why do you think that there has been some pushback from parents, and what would you say to them about how Common Core is different and beneficial now in classrooms versus the way that we learned?
Yeah, so I really think one of the core tenets of Common Core is that we're going to learn math deeply. So we're going to look at mathematics very concretely first, and then transition to that more procedural mathematics that we experienced. And change is always hard. And the first time that we, as learners who learned a particular way, try to approach new learning, there's obviously going to be some roadblocks. But the Common Core shifts, those basic tenets, really push students to a deeper level of understanding so that it's not just math for the sake of doing mathematics, that they really can experience that math and then begin to see all of those real world connections and really see the world more mathematically is really the end goal. That when I look at a situation, I have enough in my mathematical toolkit to really experience it fully.
And less, it seems to me at least, less memorization, pure memorization of numbers, and more the thought process that goes behind actually figuring out that problem.
And it's not that those procedural skills or that memorization doesn't come along, but it's not the finish line. And it's also not the only tool in the toolkit. It's part of the overall comprehensive learning for students.
Okay.
In addition, there's been plenty of brain research that has supported the idea of that conceptual understanding in terms of long-term memory for students. When they only learn a rote procedure, that doesn't stay in their long-term memory very long. Actually, it stays in their working memory, and then they have actually trouble figuring out some of the other things because their working memory is so full of the procedure that they need to do. But when you develop the conceptual understanding, it does get stored in long-term memory so that students are able to retrieve that as needed, and over time they become a much better mathematician.
Great. And I know between the three of you, you cover the gamut from elementary all the way up through high school. Are there any particular milestones that students need to be hitting in terms of Common Core math as they move up through the grades?
Well, actually, I'll start with that as the elementary coordinator. Yes, in each grade there is what we call the major work of the grade, and it is where the focus, that one of those shifts, comes to. So in kindergarten, the focus is really on counting and cardinality, and really being able to understand the question, how many? And that's one of the basic things that our kindergartners really need to do. They also need to understand how joining and separating work when they're joining and separating sets, which is the beginning of addition and subtraction. In first and second grade, the major work really does focus on addition and subtraction with problem solving and place value understanding. And along with that, by the end of grade 2, students are expected to know their basic addition and subtraction facts. Grade 3 is where multiplication and division starts with problem solving and with some introduction to basic understandings of fraction. The end of grade 3, students are to know their basic multiplication facts. Grades 4 and 5 then take all of that learning and they concentrate on using the 4 operations for whole numbers, fractions, and decimal fractions. And that basically takes care of a lot of 4th and 5th grade. While that might sound like a little bit, that's really encompassing.
A lot of learning, yes, exactly. A lot of learning.
Yes.
And then how does that move up through middle and high? Are there particular benchmarks that they should be hitting?
Absolutely. So in 6th grade, they continue that work with fractions and decimals. They have that fluency with that piece. But the heavy hitters in 6th grade are ratios, proportional reasoning, where they're really looking at understanding what is going on through tape diagrams, double number lines, ratio tables, and then they're taking that understanding and moving it into really getting an idea of what a rate is, what a unit rate is. In 7th grade, they take that understanding, they understand constant of proportionality. Once they understand that constant of proportionality and direct variation, they then can develop that understanding of slope and that familiar formula we're all used to, which is y equals mx plus b, and what does m mean in the context of the problem. And then a huge push down from the high school into the middle school is that in 8th grade, they not only work with linear equations, but they're working with systems of equations, which was previously in the old Algebra 1 curriculum. So it's really getting a deep understanding. Since they're taking that learning trajectory and building upon it, they then feel like they have the capacity to fully understand what is going on with systems, because we've spent so much time with just linear equations, not calling them linear equations until the appropriate grade, but really getting that concrete conceptual understanding.
Wow.
And then because they've worked so hard, high school becomes
I know.
much easier, right?
They just sit back and.
So really, high school is about that study of functions, which, because of the linear work that has happened in the 8th grade, we can explore exponential and quadratic functions as part of Algebra 1. And then we continue that study all the way through all of the algebra-like courses, so Algebra 2, Pre-Calculus, College Algebra. Those courses just continue to build upon all of that foundation and explore the variety of functions, both contextually and also, in that more just pure algebraic foundation. The interesting integration for high school comes with statistics and data, which used to kind of live in its own little world. And even though so many people use more statistics probably than they think they do, it was kind of this offset curriculum. So Common Core really integrates that statistical knowledge through the high school progression so that they're getting pieces of it as appropriate with the content that they're studying algebraically, or geometry, the course, which really deals more with the logic. The elementary and middle grades deal with kind of the teaching of the basic, the shapes in the area, and we're able to utilize that to develop logic skills and talk about that analysis and that dreaded proof that I think a lot of people are used to, which has itself evolved into just a much more fluid study of logic than here's a column and prove that kind of, procedural work that we would expect students to memorize. It's more about attacking the problem through logic.
And in addition to that work, middle school also works a lot with statistics,
Yes.
which has previously never been in the past. I mean, we have in our 6th grade curriculum students calculating and understanding the mean absolute deviation, which builds the understanding for standard deviation when they get into high school.
So for parents who are watching this right now saying, oh my gosh, are there resources available to help, say homework comes home or things like that parents can jump in, any place that they can go? Because there's not really many textbooks anymore to sort of like go back and refresh on. So where can parents look for help to help their kids?
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
go ahead.
So the first place to always go for help is the classroom teacher. It's always great to build just that solid communication back and forth with the classroom teacher and the resources that they're able to provide. Some schools have community blackboards and sites that they have directly that they can link to. Our local AACPS curriculum page is currently undergoing a retrofit. As part of that retrofit, the plan is to include a wealth of resources for parents, and as grade level a specific approach as we can. We're working on that rollout, and hopefully it'll be out very soon, as we can continue to work with our technology division to bring a modern update to that resource
To the website?
for parents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what would you say to a parent if they have a student who is struggling in math and or excelling in math?
Well, first of all, going back to what Kevin stated, the first thing to do would be talk to your
Classroom
classroom
teachers.
teacher and
Absolutely.
the administration of the school because they know the children best.
Yep.
So from there you can get a variety of resources. But the other side of the fence is there's a difference between a struggling student and the productive struggle that we talked about earlier. We do want our students to be grappling with problems in the classroom. So if the student would come home to mom and say, gee, I really had a tough time with this problem, that doesn't mean the child is struggling in math. It just meant that they were doing what they needed to do that day in terms of getting through some of the problems. So that's why the conversation with the teacher is really very important so that you can gauge where they are.
Your main point of contact.
Mhm.
Yes.
And I really think that the dialogue and the questioning is what's going to help. How does this look like what you did in class, hopefully over the last few days, because homework doesn't necessarily always need to be what you did that day,
Sure.
which can be a struggle. Because if I'm looking at the papers you did in class today, they may not look anything like the homework because that homework may be set back a few days to give us a chance to really cement that learning in the classroom. And then Sue talks about productive struggle. That's absolutely important. But if we are reaching that point of frustration, it's easier just to say to that classroom teacher, I need some help, I need some support. And our offices continue to work with teachers on the resources that they can provide to parents,
Okay.
and that we hopefully will be able to roll out as a system in the coming year.
Great.
But absolutely that need to communicate because we really promote the idea that if the parent can communicate to the teacher that the child tried the homework, truly didn't understand, I tried to help, I don't understand, that conversation is very different than I just chose not to do it or I did it incorrectly or some things along those lines. So it's really key that that line of communication between the teacher and the parent is open at all times and honest and real.
Sure.
I mean, there is no expectation that the parent should know everything that comes home.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank goodness.
and so we want to make sure that opportunity is there for you to talk about it, to ask questions, and to say, I just really need you to explain what is happening here so I can better support my child at home.
Great. Well, thank you all so much, and
Thank
looking
you.
forward to a really
Thank
good school
you.
year.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I'm Kathy Schaefer, and this was Parents Corner. Email us at parentscornertv@gmail.com with feedback or comments. And like our Facebook page to stay up to date on show topics. Thanks for watching.